Yo, it's Guido coming at you with a Tactics Talk. Welcome back to this episode of World of Tanks. And today we have Leopard Star 600 Clan ETU. He's in as a Wolverine, a Tier 5 American turreted TD. Kind of a medium, sort of, but low hit points. I don't know. Low tiers, the turreted TDs are interesting. I suppose you can say that for all the tiers. So they fight a lot different than just a plain old TD. They have a lot of flexibility, which is going to be important in today's game. He sent me this and said, hey, I lost. What could I do different? How could I have won this game? And as I watched it, I realized that it's a great example of mid to late game decision making, where if you can get yourself into that position, making good decisions mid to late game is going to increase your win rate. Obviously, making good decisions throughout your entire game is going to increase your win rate. But in the case of mid to late match decisions, you've managed to get to that point. The game is still in the balance. What are those decisions that you can make to make sure that you win the game instead of lose the game? And that's where I think a lot of people, especially as they're learning, start to fall down. Difference between a 50% player and a 60% player is almost entirely made up of the mid to late tier decision making. And that's just a fact. Once you get to about 50, 52%, you start learning how to get to mid to late tier. But the question is, what do I do? What do I do? It's critically important in order to secure wins, especially if you're going to be the aggressive individual in that situation. So let's take a look at what Leopard Star does. He's in his, like I said, Tier 5 Wolverine, which is a pretty good tank. Pretty good tank. He's got decent penetration at 128 for a Tier 5, and he's dropping only 115, so it is a bit of a pew-pew gun, but he doesn't have much trouble penning the things that he meets. So he is here on Westfield, and he's going to go to the kind of standard sniper nest, and then all of the TDs start knocking trees down and preparing for the winter over here. We're going to make ourselves a nice, comfy nest and hang out behind all these downed trees and bushes and whatnot. So he knocks that over and he immediately starts to look. He's got a couple three T-14s actually cruising up there, and the enemy's going to invest pretty heavily into this brawl up in the northwest, which is fairly standard. I think I would have taken that shot earlier than that, but I think he was trying to move back and make sure he didn't get spotted. Also important. So caution is being a little bit more important than hit points at that point, and that's fine. So maybe a missed opportunity there, but we'll go ahead and keep on looking for targets. The enemy actually pushes into the town a little bit, and Leopard Star's in a good position here to deal with it. Doesn't take that shot. I think it's a bit more of the same. He's just trying to make sure that he makes himself dark by going in behind those bushes. Once the leaves are solid, he has much less chance of being spotted right there while he fires. So we'll move back a little bit more. We've got their T-14s down in there, experimental. Bunch of guys up into the northwest. So this is fairly standard. He's in a TD. There's only one artillery. He is going to hang out in this bush, and he does a pretty good job. But we're going to watch as this game progresses. There comes a point where you've got to do something different. And I've talked about that quite a bit. Oftentimes in reference to games that are being lost, right? Slowly starting to lose and going, all right, man, you got to change what you're doing here. Let's talk about this sequence just for a minute. I thought it was the right idea to go ahead and try to track him again. It's going to work out for you. And you may have thought because of your reload rate, you were going to be able to machine gun that guy down. But I thought the initial thought of going after another track was the right one, but still nice job with taking him out. You'll notice that he is doing a lot of zooming out and looking around. That's a good thing. He's trying to make as many shots as he can from this one spot. The good news is the enemy team keeps walking into him. Yeah, just a little bit forward. I think you were trying to time his movement, and he stopped. The enemy team, like I said, is doing a lot for him by just kind of pressing into him and getting aggressive, but they're starting to win, right? Their aggression is paying off. They're taking out all of his heavies up here, and he starts to do a decent job of bringing it back by punishing a little bit over-aggressive heavies right there who are unable to take out his KV-1 and T-1 heavy. He had a T-14 behind him camping. That did not help his team very much, but clearly the enemy team has a big advantage here. So we're going to watch Leopard Star do a nice job of starting to clean these guys up. In addition to that, his two heavies are able to survive a lot longer than I would have imagined right there. I think another blind shot there would have been nice, but good job switching targets to the 220-2. You take him down, you'll notice that he hasn't fired much gold, if any. I don't know if he has, but it doesn't really need it. He's been just penning through everything. He's got 1,000 damage and 3 kills. Okay, so I want everybody to take a look at the situation here. Kind of lost in the south, kind of lost up in the northwest, but he still has some muscle up there. Two heavies on low hit points, himself on full hit points, and an IKV backing him up. There's a T-67 down on the edge. What do you do? This is that mid, moving on to late game decision making right here. I'm going to let it go for a little while longer. KV-1 can maybe take a hit. The T1 is basically a one-shot to more or less anything that's out there. They know there's a Stug in the back. They know there's two guys down in the city, and then there's an M10 now working this ridge because he's got pretty good, an RBFM, he's got pretty good gun depression, so he's going to have a decent time of popping over and shooting people. Good news is he's getting punished for it. Leopard Star's team does have an Arty, and that is helpful. The HMC does a little bit of work on them. Down goes the Panzer IV-H. That's one guy they were worried about down in the south, I believe. Okay, so you're at 100% hit points. The two guys that are basically anchoring over here are near dead. They've done more or less everything they can do. They're purely defensive. You are only hoping that the enemy team is stupid and drives up and over this hill. I think right here is where you needed to make a play. You needed to get forward. There's two one-shots you could have easily taken out and start working on the 01 experimental. Just cruise down here, come up here, use that gun depression, pop over and start punishing these guys. Yes, there's probably a Stug 4, but guess what? He moved up. And he's a one-shot as well. Now is the time to get forward. Another option would be to, right now, while the T-14 is isolated, get down into the city and try to take him out. I don't remember what his hit points were. I think last time you saw him, it was pretty high. So I think that's a bad play. Right now, it's the two, and I'm using this, sorry guys. Right now, it's these two near-deads right here that you need to go take out and assassinate right now. That's two guns out of the game. But what's going to happen, unfortunately, is we're going to hang out right here. And that is something that a lot of players struggle with. They're in this spot. They're going, oh my gosh, we're starting to lose a little bit. I just need to hold, and hopefully things all work out. And there we go. The T-14 shows up. So he makes a bit of a foolish play. Go for that track. All right, there you go, right into the side. I might have pressed 2 right there in a critical phase of the game like this. Nice job taking him out, though. Why would I press 2? Like I said, it's a critical phase of the game. You start to come back, and I think you were thinking about going forward and taking out those two near deads, but you kind of hesitate, and now we're backing into a bush right here. This is exactly, and of course it's the Stug sees you, and we get lucky on a bounce, and then the RBFM bounces, and then we see the 01 experimental, who should have by rights killed us right there, and we dodge out. All of that sequence could have been avoided if you'd have just charged forward as soon as you were seen by the T-14. Get up in here about where the T1 is, and now start working on quickly taking out either the Stug or the RBFM before the artillery starts raining hate and discontent on you right there. So like I was just talking about before we got that little sequence going, is this is just a failure to start moving early enough. The KV-1 gets his piece and then goes down swinging. So nice job on his part. And instead of then being aggressive, we run up to this tank and we start being defensive behind this T-14. So I think the mentality here is about 180 out from where it needs to be. I'm not saying YOLO. The approach matters, and we will get into approach in just a minute and how you go about it. In fact, I might have come around this way. All right? They have an advantage right here. They're hold down, you're out in the open. But I know you've got the T-14 here, and that's a good job getting behind him, but screw that. Go over here. Get away from this. This dude is slow. You're much faster than him. Make him move to a different part of the map. You know the RBFM's over here, and what I think you might be worried about is the Wolverine hanging out in the back, and that's true. You do want to be careful about that, but I think if you run around here, you have a much better shot, or maybe even come up the middle and try to snake the RBFM out of the game. But I think hiding out here with an artillery being involved is just not a great idea. The good news is the IKV, that was probably heat from that IKV that nuked that guy. I don't know what that was, 300 hit points he took off of him. And all of a sudden we have an advantage, and that's fantastic. Now we see the Chinook. We kind of look at him. I'd have fired on the run and kept going. This is your opportunity, right? This is called an isolated dude. You don't know if the RBFM has flexed around to the city with the Chinook, but I bet he hasn't. I would charge right at that Chinook and take him down. Even if it took a hit out of me, I'd get rid of a gun right now. And again, this is now we're into late game decision making. Artillery comes in or misses. And we're just very timid and kind of passive right here. Holy cow. There's another guy that's isolated. All right, well, either charge into the Chi Nu. The good news is that now I know that the RBFM is not with him. Either charge into the Chi Nu and take him out, or switch targets, come up over top and help take out this RBFM. But what we do is we kind of do this. Oh, I don't know what's going on. Oh, there he is. So nice job. We find him. Now I do like that aggression. Your IKV buddy helped you out. Takes him down. And holy cow, the T1 got the RBFM. And now we're in great shape. Okay, now we're in really great shape. Except for those last two things where we lost our T67 and our HMC down in the south. And that is a bummer. And that should tell you something. More than likely what killed your HMC is the Chaffee. More than likely what killed your HMC is the Chaffee, which means he's down there somewhere. Which means the Wolverine and Grill are isolated up in the north somewhere. And now's the time to use those hit points. This is about the approach right here. This is about the approach and timing and realizing that at the end of the game right now, the game hangs in the balance. You have to do something. You're the guy that has to make a play. And the play we make is kind of questionable because we drive right through the middle. We drive right through the middle. If that RBF or that Wolverine was over here and posted up in one of these bushes, we'd probably take a hit. We get lucky he's not there. The second most likely place is that he's gone all the way back there. Someone's clicking on it. T67 knows where he was hit from. So there's your clue. He's back in those bushes. And we just kind of come across the top. And the longer we sort of drone around out here and stop and look around and do all these various things, the more time the Chaffee has to come back. He hasn't jumped on cap, so more than likely he's working his way back. Whether he's coming up behind you or back up along the ridge up here. I suspect the ridge up here could be behind you. But the longer we futz around, the more positioning the enemy team gets. If their TD's up there, that's a strong position. So what's my approach here that I would take? I certainly wouldn't go down here. Not this close. I may have crossed over here and started to head up the hill. If I head up the hill in this area, then I protect myself from the TD if he happens to be back here, or even if he's over in this area over here. And I have a better chance of coming up and popping over and finding where that Chaffee is, especially if he starts working on this knoll over here. It is a bit of a danger. It is a bit dangerous because as I cross the open, if he's bushed up here, he may have some shots. But if you allow the Chaffee to get in position, you're really in trouble. Somehow the T1 is moving across that area and not being spotted. That's very interesting. That's SA that maybe he's a little further back. Okay, there's the Chaffee. Awesome. You have to go get him right now. You cannot sit in the bush and hope that your team gets him somewhere in a position where you can shoot. And that's exactly what happens. We push forward. Oh man, I'd have never done that. You need to come on the other side of this bridge, head straight across and go right at him. Because the closer you are to him, the less chance he has to get in a bush and shoot you without you spotting him. Okay, and you force him to make a move. If you just kind of let him run around up top there unspotted, which is about what is going to happen here, or I can't talk. Which is what is about to happen here. We kind of cruise up and like, oh, I wonder where that Chaffee is. Well, I tell you where he is. He's going to get in the bush. That's what scouts do, and he's going to end up in the bush up here. All of a sudden, shiny. Okay, there's the Grill, so we see him. This is fighting two directions at once, and it's something you've got to start working on end game, mid to end game, to avoid lines of fire from tanks that you know about, and especially tanks you know about but you can't see. So if you just scoot forward, you can use one of these big blocks to block any shots by the Chaffee and start taking shots on the Grillet. But we do see him, so we're going to go ahead and prioritize that. We take a shot. Nice job. Now we're hit by the Chaffee. Oh crap. We're seen, and our only option is to go forward, and then we stop, and we turn around, and we start going back forward. And again, we haven't made a move in any direction. T1 is still alive somehow. We're in decent shape, but we're going to go back over towards the Chaffee. We're lucky that the TD did not get a shot on us. He probably was looking at the IKV. And then again, very passive. We just go up here and hope against all hope that the Chaffee avails himself to one of our shots. And then he disappears. So again, I can't stress this enough. Multiple opportunities to cross that area and go help your IKV. He's up there keeping the guy spotted, trying to light him. You need to crossfire on this little scout. So up and over right over here is the way to go, so you can kind of surround this dude. But what we do is we just sort of, man, I hope that Chaffee shows up. And down we go. Chaffee got in the bush or crossed over here even. He may have even been out in the open. You just didn't have the spotting to see him. The Wolverine that you knew was in those bushes over there shoots you in the back. Just misplayed end game right there. So that's what I'm talking about mid to late game decision making. Excuse me. You've really got to look at what's left, where they might be, and then start picking off the guys that are isolated. Because that's what they're trying to do to you. That's what they're trying to do to you. And when you're the guy with all the hit points, you're the guy who apparently knows more or less what they're doing. You can tell because of the 5 kills, and you've been doing a nice job right there. You got to take the bull by the horns and get out there in front. And I gave you some specifics in this specific case, but the generality of mid to late game decision making and what to do. There's a point in nearly every game where you've got to make something happen. Sometimes it's make something happen in a losing sense, in that I'm going to go do something and get some more hit points or experience out of it. Sometimes it's this mid-late game, these kinds of games that are close, where it matters what 1 or 2 players' decisions are that will change the game. All right, guys, let me know what you think down below. I appreciate your support of the channel as always. Throw me a subscribe if you like what you saw or you learned something, and we will see you.